Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Jimmy and today I'm driving the 2008 Land Rover Range Rover. All right. So like I said, this Range Rover is a 2008, which means it has the later 4.4 Jaguar Land Rover V8 rather than the BMW 4.4 that came before it. And I was reading on the forums actually, and people seem to prefer this motor. I saw a lot more people who had issues with the BMW version, even though they have the exact same specs about at around 300 horsepower and 325 pound-feet of torque. And so obviously this is naturally aspirated one. It's not nearly as powerful as the supercharged models that they offered. This one's just the HSE. In my opinion, this is kind of all the power you need. You know, my Lexus GX 460 is actually around the same specs, full-time all-wheel drive, same amount of power from its V8, and I honestly think that's a great formula. It's got a full-time all-wheel drive system with a Torsen locking center diff, and the 4.4 is mated to a 6-speed auto. So this generation of the Range Rover is the third generation, known as the L322. So they produced this one from 2001 to 2012. And so when this car made its debut, it was, the HSE specifically, costed around $80K. And you know, that's, even for the time, you know, that's pretty steep for a car like this. You had the Lexus LX 570 for about $75,000, and then you know, in the 60s and 70s you also had the Cayenne, the Q7, the Escalade. But I think what sets this car apart, even though at the time it was obviously more expensive, if you go and look back at those cars have not aged well. If you go in the interiors and they're plasticky, they're not super luxurious. Even on the exterior, those designs, they look very 2008. And I'm not saying this car hasn't aged, but I will say that this car has definitely aged well. I think the overall shape of this car, it's just overall a very timeless design. In my opinion, it's one of the better looking generations of Range Rover. I think, you know, the following model years, as they kind of got rounded out and, you know, a little bit less off-road focused and a little bit more geared towards a luxury SUV buyer than an off-roader, I think the looks took a little bit of a toll. This air suspension's really doing a great job of keeping the car flat. You know, a lot of body-on-frame SUVs take its competitor, the LX 570, for example. That car has a lot of body roll. It feels pretty large when you're driving it. It doesn't hide its mass very well. And this car, once again, even though it's no sports car, it's definitely far sharper than I expected it to be. It's borderline like fun to drive on a back road. I didn't really expect to be saying that in this video, but the steering is like surprisingly accurate, and that alone makes this a pretty engaging car to drive. It doesn't have the most feedback that I've ever experienced, but that steering with, you know, obviously a very smooth, good sounding V8 and a decent enough transmission makes this car, as a package, outside of the reliability, like a very, very tempting proposition for sure. Braking feel is very, very predictable. feels linear. There's not really this unnatural bite point to it. Throttle response is decent. I would say that's not really an issue of the engine, but more of a transmission thing. It definitely takes, you know, half a second to drop a gear. Kind of hangs on to it in a weird way, but it's kind of what I expect out of an SUV this age. But in summary, from a driving perspective, I'm pleasantly surprised by just how easy and engaging this is to drive. I would truly, the reliability prevents me from recommending someone to buy this car, because it's almost inevitable that at some point a car like this will have some kind of catastrophic issue. But assuming that everything works and its major problem areas have been addressed, this is a very, very appealing deal for under 10 grand. Yeah, I mean, you get a lot for that money. So, would I recommend a 2008 Range Rover Land Rover? Well, that's a complicated question, because I would recommend driving one, but I wouldn't recommend owning one. You see, on one hand, this car is excellent to drive. It's comfortable, it's got plenty of features, it's good looking, dynamically it's actually pretty fun. It really did surprise me with the way it drove. But from an ownership perspective, this is a hard car to recommend, because you're taking such a big risk with reliability that if you pay 8 to 10 grand for one of these, you may be spending another 5 to 10 grand just in maintenance and repairs alone. And so I think it really is up to you as the buyer whether having a Range Rover and paying those extra expenses is worth it, or if finding, say, something like a Land Cruiser or LX570 for around the same price is more worth it, because you're not going to be doing that additional maintenance or pouring much more money into it. Obviously, everything around that age probably does need attention, but with the Range Rover, I think you're just paying more for nicer parts and definitely doing so more frequently. So ultimately, what I would say about this car is that it really is excellent to drive, excellent to look at, and overall it really did surprise me. I came into this review not really expecting to be impressed by much about it. I've driven a lot of SUVs from this era, and most of them aren't super great to drive and kind of seem like the technology was not really ready for that time. And this car definitely changed my mind on that. Everything seemed to be in great shape and worked definitely as intended, and so I was really pleased with that. And I really do have a soft spot for these after driving it. Since it's in that sub 10 grand budget, of course, I was scrolling through different websites after, seeing what examples I could find, seeing what prices were like, but I honestly could never bring myself to own one of these, just given the reliability, because I know I couldn't afford that. But maybe you are the right buyer, and maybe the reliability isn't an issue for you, and if not, then I would say go for it. You're not going to be disappointed with this car, assuming that everything works the way it should. It really is a great experience, and if you get to drive one of these, you won't be disappointed. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Hey, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate that you would support me as I learn this process of doing car reviews. With every new video, I'm trying to pick up new skills, whether that's with software, new cameras, or different angles, or different ways I try to convey a message. And so I really appreciate that you would support me through that process. And I also wanted to say to my viewers who have been watching my content for a while, thank you for your support, as this marks the 1-year anniversary of my YouTube channel, and so a year ago today I posted my first video, which was of my Lexus GX460. And if I'm being honest, that's not a great YouTube video or a great car review by any means. It's 30 minutes long. It's pretty boring to watch and somehow also not that informative. So it's definitely a long watch. And I'm not saying my other videos are super amazing by any means, but hopefully each one has been better as I've continued to learn this process. So I've made 6 videos in total now, and obviously I've started a blog. If you've checked that out, use the link in my bio if you haven't. And yeah, I just wanted to express my gratitude for your support, as it allows me to continue what I love doing, which is driving everything I can and telling you everything about it. I truly am passionate about that, and I'd love to keep doing that. So it really means a lot that you would watch my content. And so with that being said, hope you stay tuned for more car content, and can't wait to see what comes next. Thank you so much.